What's going on, man? It's your boy Ray Rock, and I'm here with the one and the only Neary Beats. Everyone, give this man a round of
What's up?
applause.
What's up, bro? Ray,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm happy to have you, my brother. Neary, I'm here because you've been making a lot of noise here in Miami, in the R&B scene, and even in the hip hop scene. For those who you guys don't know, Josh has worked with King Hoodie, which is like a rising star in the South. And he's been able to be in the studio with Tory Lanez, and the
Mhm.
list goes on and on. So, Josh, talk to me.
Yeah, man, staying busy, staying working. I think this year is going to be a really good year for me as far as this process. It's not always instant gratification, so it's a lot of stuff that's been worked on in the past year, 2 years that I think this year is going to come out and hopefully make some waves and help build my brand.
Oh man. So Josh, like this buzz that you created, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, how did you create this buzz? Like what was your mindset to make this happen? Because right now, like everybody who makes music in Miami knows who you are.
Yeah, you know what? I got to credit it to two people kind of changed my course of uh, my trajectory as a producer. Um, I had a conversation with a guy named DJ Illusion, and I also had a conversation with a videographer named Applejacks. And I had that. They both told me the same thing within like a week span, and they said, "You know what you should do, bro? You should work with every single artist you possibly can. Said just whoever is willing to make music with you, just make as much music as you possibly can with whoever you can, and just try to just flood the market. And I really just took that idea and I just kind of ran with it. I was like, you know what, man, I really that's what I'm gonna do. Anybody that'll get in the studio with me, I'll get in with them. And you know what? It kind of starts to have like a snowball effect. So you get one artist that gets on your track, and then other artists pay attention to other artists. They're like, well, who did that? And then you get with them, and they reach out. So you start to build like this trust in your brand because they've seen other artists utilizing you. And I think that was like the biggest thing that kind of uh, really changed my trajectory from being somebody that just like made beats and would be in their bedroom to somebody that really was out here and had records.
Yeah, man. Man, I love the fact that you said that you had a conversation with two exterior people, and you allow those people to influence you, because sometimes producers can be in their own little island, and they don't seek out for any type of mentorship. They don't seek out to collaborate with anybody. And with that being said, it reflects on their music. They get their success level is where it's at because they're not getting the proper feedback that they need from people who are a few chapters ahead of them. You don't always need to get. Sometimes what stops people out there from getting the proper feedback that they need is because they're worried about trying to get this big name to give them some feedback. But sometimes you just get feedback from somebody who's a few chapters ahead of you. You know what I'm saying?
I've been through that too. I've been through that too, where you're like, well, I'm gonna hold this beat because I'm gonna run into Jay-Z, or I'm gonna run into whoever whatever name. It's like, man, don't do that because that's just a recipe for the hard drive graveyard.
Yeah, man. And I agree, man. I used to be like that too. As the beat hoarder. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so, with that being said, I have this philosophy in producing music. Where eh, from a production standpoint, you know what I'm saying? Uh, So the first point is an infectious melody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, so what every beat needs an infectious melody. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So what do you have to say about that? How do you come up with your melodies? What can you tell the people out there that are trying to do what we do?
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Well, I like to think of like melody. I'm a big believer in running with whatever inspiration hits you like right off the bat. You know, because I think when you try and overthink like melody is like you just can't really overthink it, and you can't understate how important that those first couple of melodies that just come from you when whatever it is, like that pure moment when the beat drops and it just makes you make a sound. Like I think that's the most important thing to try and capture. So what I like to do is I like to line up the beat and just press record and just see what comes out. And what I find is like as I'm funneling through, like I'm fumbling through melodies, like I start to grasp like a certain concept or melody that I just keep coming back to, and I just stick with it and build off it, stick with it and build off it. Um, I'm a big believer that like the first couple ideas that hit you are like that's it. Like that's what you run with. Now, it's not to say you can't go back and make something better, but I think, inspiration is like something that you can't overthink. It just kind of happens. And I just run with whatever comes out.
yeah, man. I like how you put that. Like, don't be hard on yourself. Just try to go with the first melody that comes to you, because oftentimes if you sit down and you say, "Yo, I'm gonna sit down and make a hit," that's not necessarily what's gonna happen. You know, um, it's a good tip that you're giving people and stuff like that. Um, Tell me more about your process. Are you a guy that starts, a beat with drums first? Because it sounded like that. It sounds like you get a groove first, and then
Um,
you play around
I,
through melodies.
I, I think people that start their beats with drums are like aliens. Um,
Oh, okay. It's the other way around.
I don't know how anybody can do that, man. I've probably made it like how many times I've done that. But I always start with the melody. It usually starts with like a chord progression or like a lead line that I might not even end up keeping once the beat is finished. For me, it always starts with melody, and like majority of the time starts with like chords or a sample or some kind of melodic chop that like just gives me the inspiration to like want to build it out.
Dope. Dope. Yeah, man. So it's funny because like I'm becoming a melody person first now.
Mm-hmm.
I was a drums person,
You're an alien.
a drums person first for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and or I would hear a sample,
Mm-hmm.
right, and I would force myself to do something different because um, with the sample by starting with making drums first to
Mm-hmm.
cause the chop to be different from everybody else's chop. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because like if you just do a 4 bar loop or 8 bar loop of a sample and put drums to it, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty predictable. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So it's like it's cool just to hear like different processes and like um but now I feel like my strengths like have been in sampling and drums. You know what I mean? That I want to build my melodic strength more. So I'm starting my tracks with more melodies. So that's dope. So like now let's get to know you a little bit more though. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, you both have you always lived in Miami? How long have you been in Miami? Where are
Yeah,
you?
so I grew up in Tampa, Florida, and my first love was actually basketball. So Basketball kind of afforded me the opportunity to go on and play college basketball. So I got to play at St. Pete College, which is junior college. I did 2 years there, and then I transferred to a school up in North Carolina, and I played at a small school up there. I got back from there. I was in Tampa for a year. I was doing like a lot of like live music at that time around Tampa, around St. Pete. And then I moved to DC for grad school. So I was never like pursuing music as a profession. I was like, it was always just something I just kind of did for, the love of it. And sorry, I'm back. And then I moved to DC. The whole time I was up there, I was just doing school, playing pickup basketball every day, and then like playing on my piano when I came home. And then maybe 5 years ago, I made the move to Miami. That was when I downloaded Logic, started playing around with that, and then just started progressing, learning, being able to take what I did on the piano and make it make sense in the producer's world, because I was getting hired a lot as a session musician, which is how I got connected with Tory. Was just doing like session gigs. So that's kind of been my journey. Never has been like it was never music first until like the last year, 2 years. It was always something that I just was like I love to do. I was kind of good at, and then it kind of turned into something bigger. So I'm just like along for the ride at this point.
Oh man. So man, I'm so glad that I got you on the phone on the Zoom call, because it's interesting. When did you start playing the piano?
I started in college, so I started when I was 18, and I learned very untraditionally. So I had a friend that played, and I just thought it was cool. Like he would play like Tupac records, whatever. Hold on, I'm charging. So he would play like Tupac records.
What's your favorite Tupac record?
I ain't mad. Well, my favorite Tupac record is Me Against the World.
Nice.
All right, so I got so I would learn songs. So I didn't actually learn like theory. I didn't know what I was playing. I just knew, oh, this sounds like, whatever song was on the radio. And then that became the thing to do, was like sit by the piano or the keyboard with the radio on, whatever song came on, try and learn how to play whatever was playing. No idea about theory, keys, scales, chords, none of that. Just like figuring out the notes. And when I got to college, I joined jazz band. And when I got to jazz band, I had a professor that was really hands-on with me. He was like, look, you need to know what you're playing. Like, I was literally sitting in jazz band faking it. Like I knew what I was doing with sheet music in front of me. And, obviously he could tell that I had no idea what I was doing. So he would, sit down with me. He taught me the scales. He taught me the chords, the timing and all that stuff. And that was like a big, help, because everything I did, it made everything that I was doing make sense. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew it sounded good. And then he was like, look, this is an E major 7. This is, you can play it the same way. This is a C major 7. And so I was, in my mind, it like made everything kind of.
You just named the 2 most popular jazz chords of all time.
Yeah.
All you're missing is a C major 7.
Right. So it made everything make sense. And then that was kind of like how I got into like doing music. And then, once you kind of understand jazz and doing that, like, it's like, what can you not play once you learn how to play jazz? So, that was kind of like how I ended up getting into music, was just to like learn a couple songs, and then it just grew into something bigger.
Yeah, man. Let's go back. Let's go back a little bit, and let's talk about you meeting Tory Lanez.
Yeah.
How was that? Like, what was that experience like? How long ago was it?
Yeah, so
tell me how that day goes.
So this is maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. Man, this is a crazy story. So I move into my apartment and I order cable. So the cable guy comes to install the cable. He sees I have a keyboard, my keyboard set up and my amplifier and all that. And he's like, yo, man, you play this? And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, man, that's what's up. I produce. He's like, let me play you some records. So he starts playing me records. So while he's doing it, and he's playing, I hop behind the piano and I start playing with the records that he's playing me. He's like, yo, you dope. Like, you got to come to the studio. I got a studio. So I'm like, yeah, man, I'm there. So he invites me to the studio and I get there and Tory's there. I go figure. So it wasn't Tory's session. Tory was in the next room, but they started bringing me around a lot to do like as a session musician. And Tory was there every day in this studio working. And he, our paths started crossing. He peeped game. His team, his producers started seeing me in there and wanted to work. And then that kind of led into me going to work with like Play Picasso, Sergio, some of like his core producers, which ended up leading to Look No Further, which was a record I helped produce with those guys. So it was, like, what's the odds? Like a cable guy is going to come by, be a producer, invite you to the studio, and that ends up leading to Tory, which is kind of like, I don't even know how
to. That's crazy, bro. That is great. I like, while you're telling this story, I'm trying not to like interrupt you and like, oh my gosh. Oh man, that's fire, bro. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean,
amazing. And that kind of put a battery in your backpack, I'm sure. Yeah, man. So, man, I don't want to take too much of your time, man. I really appreciate you taking the time just to tell me your story, and just tell me how like everything happened with you, journey to becoming a producer, and giving us some tips out there. Is there anything that you want to leave the people with that are gonna watch this video that are like, they want to become a producer. They don't know anything about production. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say the three things I would say is number one, like really like study the craft. So, I spend a lot of time on YouTube learning stuff, learning how to work my program, learning kind of the ins and outs of making the sound relevant, collaborating with people, because when you work with other producers, you start to see their process and you start to learn things that you may have never thought of, or approaches you've never considered. So that's like one of the big tips, is just really study and get out there and meet other people. But the biggest thing, and the thing like I kind of touched on earlier that kind of changed my trajectory, was not only working with everybody that I could, is I think the biggest thing to do is also learn how to record and having a access to recording. Because not only it's cool to be like, yeah, I'll work with everybody, but if they don't have access to a studio, you don't know how to run Pro Tools or a program to be able to record them. They can want to work with you all they want, but that kind of leads to nowhere. Because artists, even if they like a beat, they still got to like it enough to book studio time, to get it mixed, mastered, put it out on DSPs. So like the biggest thing that changed my trajectory was like I learned Pro Tools from Make It Bang. And once I learned that, then I started just bringing all these artists in. Like, hey, you like this? Come on over. I'll record you. And all of a sudden, like, I'm in the studio with artists almost every other night, recording new records. I'm not an engineer, but I figured out like the basics of tracking out vocals, which isn't nothing too crazy. And I think that was like the biggest thing that changed the trajectory of like just being a producer that had beats to being a producer that had a lot of records, was just learning how to record vocals and having access. Even if you just got like a little mic set up, like, you're amazed what you can do. You don't need like a professional studio. Get artists in, play them their beats. They like the beat. Let's do it right now. Jump on it, record it, record's done, and you're building your catalog. So that would be like the biggest tip that kind of changed my trajectory.
So the three things would be like, learn your program as best as you can. Yeah. Learn your DAW as best you can.
Yeah.
Don't make beats and learn how to record vocals.
You know what I mean? And one more, Ray. One more is, don't, like, in the beginning, don't chase no money. Like, I'm a victim of that too, because when I started, I didn't really know, like, well, how much should I charge for beats? And like, I was just I was overcharging the people that did buy from me. And I was setting my price point way too high for where I was. You know, like, I didn't have any records out there. I had no like work to show people that they could rely on. And I think once you stop worrying about the money, like, you'll be amazed how people just start to come to you, and they don't even ask. Like, they already know, like, there's whatever you ask for, you're gonna get.
Dope. Dope, man. Well, thank you for your time, man. Everyone out there, I want you to be able to shout out, you know, your social media, where they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at Neri Beats everywhere. That's NERI Beats. Also, at midnight tonight, or Thursday the 26th, I'm dropping a single. So King Hoodie and DYFL, we put together a joint project. That's another thing I'm doing, is I'm kind of like dropping my own stuff as a curator. And, you know, so we don't got to wait on artists to put out stuff. Like, you build these relationships with people, like, utilize them, put out little EPs. So tonight, my single drops. It's called Dreaming. It's featuring King Hoodie, DYFL, and Ronnie VOP. So hit my page and check it out, man. I'd definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you guys for watching this interview. I appreciate you guys. Till the next time. Peace.